Well, that is the question, isn't it? The heat wave can't be helping. People got to be trying to cool their homes, at least those with air conditioners. And how does that all play out for you?
So power demand is growing very rapidly now. For the current month, it is 18% up. Last month, it was 12.5% up. And for the year as a whole, last year, it was 8% up. So power demand is growing. It's on the back of better economic activity as well as the heat wave. So both the things are resulting for a better power demand. And so we are running our power plants at a full capacity at this point of time.
Well, what does it mean for what some have described as an energy crisis there in India and a coal crisis as well?
So domestic coal production is up, and last year the dispatches were up by more than 16%. So domestic coal production is doing pretty well. But India imports close to 215 million tons of coal, total coal, all different type of coal put together. But that went down by close to 16-17% to 195 million ton last year, and currently also the imports are going down, primarily because of the supply chain disruption and higher international coal prices. Because at these prices, to produce power is pretty expensive. Like if I give you a little bit of idea that what we used to produce the fuel based on the imported coal used to be in the range of like some 3.5 cents, but now it is like 15 cents. So that's the kind of a prices which has gone up and which makes it little unviable. So it's imported coal-based power is less available in the country at this point of time, and which is accentuating the availability of supply based on the thermal power.
Is there a need to put more reliance on imported coal? Would you be looking at that as well with your Ratnagiri plant, given that there is this demand for costly power in these times of shortages?
Yeah, hi. So the coal availability at a higher price is there. The problem is that the international prices at this point of time, and which is primarily happened because of geopolitical tensions and some supply disruptions which have happened. But I think they will get normalized in quarter or two. Once they get normalized, we will see the lower thermal coal prices, and then it should even out.
What kind of solutions would you be suggesting to government officials to overcome this crisis?
I think globally as well as in India, the energy transition is taking place very rapidly, and government of India as well as industry in India is moving very rapidly towards the renewable energy transition, and that's what it is happening. And we believe that there will be 30 to 40 gigawatt of the capacity addition based on the renewable capacity will be coming up pretty soon. Last year, we did a capacity addition of around 17 gigawatt, and which was 90% was by renewable capacity, and balance 10% was from hydro as well as the thermal capacity, and that trend will continue. So I'm pretty optimistic as far as the energy transition is concerned. There will be a little scope for adding little more of thermal capacity going forward, and which I think government will be looking at favorably.
Prashant, you're betting big on renewable energy, green energy, as it were. I think you have, something in the region of 32% of output coming from renewable sources. You want to get that up to 55% over the next 2 years. How are you going to afford that, and what help are you getting from the government?
So government is having very favorable policy at this point of time for the energy transition, and so government is coming out with various bids where they can procure power from the renewable resources, and that's where the real interest is. And we are at this point of time building 2.5 gigawatt of the renewable capacity, which we are building through our internal accruals, because we generate more than $300 million of free cash every year, which we are deploying for this capacity. Of this 2.5 gigawatt, we have already commissioned 225 megawatt last month, and current financial year we will be commissioning close to 1.5 gigawatt balance next year, and we intend to add up between 1 to 2 gigawatt every year for next 10 years. That's a kind of a potential I'm seeing. When we see the pie of 30 to 40 gigawatt annual capacity addition by renewable resources in the country for next 10 years. Getting a share of 2 gigawatt in that is pretty handsome and very remunerative.
You mentioned shortages earlier over coal. Does the Ukrainian situation and Russia being sanctioned by the West make you a buyer of Russian coal? And if so, would you be a buyer with it being really, really quite deeply discounted?
So recently we have started booking some shipments, and the availability of good quantity is a problem. But yes, recently we have booked 300,000 tons of coal, and then we are looking for more quantities. So if we get more quantities, we are able.
All right, I wanted to ask as well, you're talking about some of how you would finance things. What is your debt position looking like, and what is your, I guess, spending plans too for full year 23?
So we have been, we announced a capital expenditure of $2 billion for this 2.5 gigawatt of capacity, which we have totally tied up, which is completely PPA sealed with the distribution companies. And as I said, that we have been already generating $300 million of cash every year, which is going as an equity. And going forward, this cash will be going up. Today, if you look at our balance sheet, we have the best balance sheet in the industry globally, wherein our debt to EBITDA is less than 1.65 times and our debt to equity is less than 0.4 times. So we have a lot of room to lever up our balance sheet, and now we are doing that.
Prashant, very quickly, the whole world is grappling with higher inflation, energy costs are going on. How are your input costs rising currently?
So input costs are rising pretty sharply. As I said that, typically we have been importing coal at $75 to $80, which has last year average was $170. Last quarter was $265. And right now it is going on at $295. So that's a lot of pressure on our input costs. But whatever PPAs or contracts of selling the power we have done, we have a pass-through mechanism. We pass through our entire pool cost. And whenever we are selling on the spot market in the exchanges, we are always making sure that we are selling in the time blocks where our sales price is more than our variable cost. And energy prices in the country at this point of time are also ruling very high in the power exchanges, which is in the range of 16 to 19 cents.